Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Ecosystem Business Summit. We are excited, man. This is going to be a great event. We're a couple minutes early. We opened up the doors. Just come on in. We're going to put up a poll, in fact, as well, and go ahead and take. We have a couple of polls. One is about the kind of partner activities that you manage, and how do you manage those partnerships today. I'm going to step back out, let people gather, and I'll be back in just a minute. Hey, welcome everyone. It's actually just a minute afterwards. We're just going to let everybody gather. We still see people joining, so I'm going to step out just for another 30 seconds and be right back. Welcome. By the way, take the poll and go ahead and announce yourself in chat, and I'll be right back. All right, let's get started. Hey, fantastic. We have an amazing event today. I am really excited. The topic is very timely, and we have some incredible speakers that are going to be sharing their thoughts and bringing a lot of really interesting insights to this topic. So GenAI. Who isn't talking about GenAI today, right? Everything is all about GenAI, but what's really interesting and what we're going to be talking about today is how partnerships are so critical to managing your GenAI strategy and bringing an ecosystem of partners together to deliver value to customers is what it's all about. So. Gosh, we're so excited. We have over 600 people registered today, and folks from many different technology participants in this ecosystem, and both ISVs and system integrators, and a lot of folks have joined are joining today. So. Thanks. Welcome everybody, and let's get started. I think a few housekeeping things. So go ahead and add your picture into your photo in the Hopin platform. Introduce yourself. Let's just say let us know where you're joining from. Ask questions. You can just go ahead and ask questions right in the comments in the chat, and please do answer polls. We have a couple of polls up, and everything is going to be happening in the stage tab. So that's where all the action is today. So with that, here's our session today. So Amit's going to kick it off. Amit is our president and co-founder, and Amit is going to just have a little bit of perspective to this whole topic that we're talking about, partnerships in delivering GenAI. Excited to hear that from Amit. And then we have Jessica. Jessica Kosmowski is Global Ecosystem and Alliance Leader and Head of Ecosystems for Deloitte. Really, Deloitte is doing some very innovative things around GenAI and working with a lot of different solution partners to deliver solutions to customers. And then Colleen Capase. Colleen is VP Channels and Partner Programs at Google. Excited to have Colleen join us as well and talk about how the cloud plays a huge part in delivering AI solutions. And then we have two really incredible ISVs that are doing amazing things in GenAI. So Harry Alt is EVP of Corporate Development and Partnerships, kicking us off, and then Vinod Devan is Global Ecosystem and Partnerships and Business Development. I'll come back and wrap things up. And right in the middle, we're going to have. We're also excited to have an award. This is twice yearly, co-stars of co-sell, and so that's exciting. Right in the middle of the action, we'll take a minute and we'll see who are the winners for the nominees and winner for co-stars of co-sell. Okay, so I think with that, Amit, I'm going to bring you in, and morning.
Hey, good morning, Chip. Exciting to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I will let you. I will step out and let you go ahead. Great. Thanks, Amit. Take it away.
What an incredible moment we are living in, Chip. So thank you for the opportunity. So warm welcome to the whole ecosystem community here. As you know, we've been doing this event for about 7-8 years now. It started with a small group of people just sitting out in a conference room, 10 people in chairs, almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, talking about partnerships and its importance. But this moment is incredible, where this entire community is here. We are talking about GenAI and what does next-gen partnerships look like in this pivotal moment. And there are things changing in technology that always creates the opportunity for partnering better, but the stakes couldn't be higher in this case. So let's talk a little bit about that. Very recently, there was a national airline which had a case where a person suffering bereavement, went to the airline site and asked a few questions around bereavement travel. And the GenAI solution that was behind that chatbot, of course, it's trying to help out the customer success teams and customer support team in terms of smoothing out the traffic that might happen during travel season. So this chatbot took over and answered questions around the policy, and it hallucinated and gave an incorrect policy. So there was a lawsuit, and that lawsuit eventually determined that whatever GenAI actually puts out, the courts ruled that the airline has to honor. And this resulted in loss of brand loyalty and, of course, a negative outcome. So stakes are pretty high, as we can see that if we rush into it without the proper guardrails, controls, and eventually trust in the system, we lose customer trust. And when you roll back in terms of the root cause analysis at the end of the day, it rolls back to who do you trust in the ecosystem. But at the same time, Deloitte did a recent study around the impact of GenAI on healthcare alone. There's such great potential and power in this. So 53% of people surveyed in that, these are healthcare professionals, who said GenAI can improve access, and 46% said that it will actually help make healthcare more affordable. And if you look at the entire healthcare life cycle, all the way from drug discovery to delivery to point of care, there are so many places where it can take cost out and give better outcomes, all the way from reading mammograms to kind of augmenting doctors and with the latest research and literature, and actually even giving access to end patients who may not be insured, for example. This is a huge area where GenAI can play a huge potential. So just think about the stakes in this case. Stakes are high. And if end solutions are composed of technology pieces all the way from GPUs and CPUs to AI engines and factories to cloud to applications to large language models, the entire ecosystem has to come together to keep that customer trust. And I think that's incredible. So stakes are very, very high in this case. Now, if you look at what has changed here in the stack, this is the traditional stack on the left hand side. We have the cloud as the ubiquitous infrastructure around the world. We will have Colleen come in and later talk about this thing from Google point of view, but we have AWS, Microsoft, Oracle, Dell. You have immense cloud and infrastructure computing capability that we've never had access to before. And then on top of it, ISVs and application providers building applications, and GSIs building and configuring these solutions. We'll have Jessica from Deloitte come in and talk about this. This stack has had tremendous experience practicing this co-innovation, co-selling, and even selling through marketplaces. If you see how companies have actually taken new innovation from ISVs, put into marketplaces, even GSI is creating new solution stacks and using co-sell and marketplace to get to market. But GenAI has come in and changed the stack. This has now become deeper. So with the advent of large language models, there's interpretive language now, where machine level language is no longer required. You can actually talk in natural language, and GenAI can actually process it and has wide applications, and fundamentally allows you to rethink not just the infrastructure but also the applications and end customer use cases at the end of the day. Now, if you look at the infrastructure layer alone, it's changing the compute stack with things like the AI factory, for example. We saw a big announcement from Dell and NVIDIA the other day coming together to announce this. We've had NVIDIA DGX, for example, available in all these hyperscaler clouds as an infrastructure layer that you can immediately ask for and get provision within days and weeks, as opposed to 6 to 9 months to actually build something like this. So this is like crazy innovation at that layer, all powered by the new GPUs and in particular NVIDIA coming along. Now, if you look at the next layer, this is even more fundamental. The large language models, we'll have Devane from Cohere come in and later talk about this thing, and how that model can be augmented with data that you may have in the enterprise. And this is where RAG comes in with retrieval technologies that can augment with additional data, can put the right guardrails, and then you can have an even better in outputs and interactions. And then you can fine tune the models out there. And this allows you to fundamentally rethink applications. And the other day, Bill McDermott from ServiceNow mentioned that in the next 2 years, almost every business process is going to be rethought with AI, which gives a huge opportunity for ISVs to rethink what they're building for the next generation. And even more powerful, and Jessica will touch on that, how do GSIs actually create use cases, both for internal use for companies to actually build this competency, but more importantly, what transformative business cases by industry are possible now that were never possible before? So there are huge opportunities here up and down the stack, not only to create new innovation, but if you think of this natural implication of this innovation as well in terms of go-to-market, how do you co-market this capability so that you educate the end customer on the right outcomes, on the right technology choices that one needs to make? How do you co-sell together so that the end customer is seeing and getting what they believe in? In fact, Colleen from Google will talk about how it's not just show and tell, it's show and tell with my data. And this is where GSIs are so important in not only doing the right POCs, but creating the trust in the model itself. And we'll see new kinds of partnership players come out. For example, the first MSPs which are focused on just fine-tuning data models. There will be new service partners or capabilities within existing service partners developed to do this. And guess what? The fastest growing area within marketplaces, especially the cloud marketplaces, is actually in GenAI applications. Thousands of new ISVs are getting created who are creating new models, who are creating new applications. And the model gardens are now a new feature within the cloud marketplaces. So the entire get to market and go to market around partnerships is being rethought across this deep stack. At the end of the day, this is about why is this so important to kind of illustrate? First, every layer has to win trust with each other. Partnerships, the interlocks have to be strong. The trust and security principles have to be really bonded in gold. And then that trust will enable the end customer trust. So ultimately, the same trust that we had in the old traditional stack The new stack has to have the trust in terms of guardrails, security, data privacy, bias, and all the things that we've heard that kind of avoids the negative cases but gives us the potential to do the immense benefit that society as a whole can get out of this thing. Now, what we've seen is that the cloud ISV and GSIs have worked very well together. This is where we have trust at scale. Born in the cloud ISVs working very closely with cloud hyperscalers, SIs bringing those workloads in, and this is the model where the GenAI stack can fit right into this model right away. And I think this is, for the first time in the industry, what we are seeing is because of GenAI, get to market has become faster because you can rely on people below the stack. Let's say you're an ISV or a GSI, you can rely on technologies, whether it's the GPUs, the models below you. You can actually rely on that and create unique partnerships. It will actually accelerate your time to market. So this race is on. You don't need to specialize on what they do. In fact, if you did that, you will waste time. Just partner up. It's much better strategy doing that. In fact, I would go as far as to say that GenAI is probably the first market which is going to be ecosystem first by design. It's not about control of all layers in that stack, because honestly nobody can control or has the innovation power to control all layers in the stack. So having an open, powerful ecosystem around your strategy is very key to winning. So it's an open ecosystem first strategy, and within that, partners are a springboard to innovation. How do you use the latest LLM to kind of get to market very quickly? A large media company recently created their own foundation model, because guess what? They had 200 years of written history about the world as told through their newspaper. In a world where newspapers are going out of fashion, this is a tremendous data asset for companies. And now imagine a large language model that kind of unlocks that to interrogate, to find answers in historical patterns, for example. And then trust in the solution. We've seen immense capabilities now being added to GenAI. For example, with NVIDIA NeMo, you have now the guardrails that you can put in this place, guardrails around bias, for example. Now the layers above it can trust the technology below in a much better way. And this eventually translates into the trust with the buyer. So I'm very, very excited that there is a mandate here. If it's an open ecosystem, if the ecosystem players already know how to work with each other, and these companies have a head start. ISVs who have worked well with cloud companies, they have a head start. GSIs who have taken already a lot of workloads to the cloud, and they have helped with transformational digital transformation initiatives during the COVID years, for example. Customers already trust them to do this digital transformation. So when they come with a GenAI end-to-end process, companies are more likely to trust. So at the end of the day, an ecosystem is critical to scaling trust and making it permeate the entire end customer outcome. And I believe this ecosystem mandate helps that. So we are at a very pivotal moment. Where are we headed? There are two possible outcomes, right? One could be really bad and dark, where AI kind of takes over and has negative outcomes that we talked about. The other one is very optimistic. This is where the world can be a very different place. The impact of Gen AI on industries that have a transformative power on society, on how business is conducted, how schools and our kids actually grow up in a whole new world, will be shaped by this. So I think this places an immense responsibility, given the importance of the ecosystem around Gen AI. It places an immense responsibility on the partnership leaders on this call. As a community, this is a call to step up. This is a call to embrace it. This is a call to see how we can develop the ecosystem business model more around trust, around expertise, and around end customer outcomes that actually deliver great results. So let's master the complexity into sophistication. Let's understand the deep stacks in this new partnership model. And let's rise to the occasion as partnership leaders. And companies that have an ecosystem mindset already have a head start in this. Mindset is everything at the end of the day. So looking forward to an amazing ecosystem generation, if you will, because of Gen AI here. Now, I have four incredible speakers who are going to come on next. These are leaders who actually have led GenAI initiatives and partnering, especially across their companies, to create net new business models, net new outcomes, and it's a great opportunity to learn from their experience. So let's Chip, let's kick the panels off, and I'm really excited about this session today.
Amit, that was fantastic. Great intro to warm things up, and we don't have any questions right now, but I thought I'd highlight a comment from Jeff Shuey, who says who echoed your comment about Bill McDermott talking about the AI factories,
Absolutely.
AI. So great, thanks, Jeff, for your comments, and let's jump in. We'll bring in Jessica to get started.
Hi, Chip.
Hey, Jessica.
Hi, Amit.
Hey, Jessica, warm welcome to you.
Thank you
for
for having
taking the
me.
time.
Of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. So I'll let you guys take it from here, and I'll step out.
Thank you, Chip.
Oops.
Or step in.
Did the wrong.
Warm welcome, Jessica, from the entire ecosystem community here on the call. I'll give a brief intro. Jessica is the Deloitte Global Ecosystem and Alliances leader. She oversees strategic collaboration with tech companies across the board. Immense experience, 25 plus years. She was ranked top 25 consultant by Consulting Magazine and one of Bay Area's most influential businesswomen. And huge impact, Jessica, across your career. So we are all intrigued. Everybody wants to be Jessica at the end of the day. So can you tell a little bit about your journey and what led you to this current role that you have today at Deloitte?
Absolutely. As you said, I've been at Deloitte for a long time, maybe more than some people on this call have been alive. Boop, right?
Yeah.
And I've gotten to do a lot of different things through the years, but have spent most of my time in the tech space. So you can imagine my first project was at Microsoft back when Microsoft was still printing floppy disks, and then I moved through working with lots and lots of different tech players on large scale transformations. But I've also had twists and turns. At one point, I actually led a part of our federal practice in Washington, D.C., where I worked with the presidential transition from Barack Obama to the next president. And I work with 16 candidates down to 2, down to 1, and then help transition the entire, the entire apparatus from the Obama presidency to the Trump presidency, which was fascinating. You can imagine that was a twist and turn. From there, I came back to San Francisco and I worked in our TMT industry, leading that for the firm. So that's tech, media, telecom, and that's everything, as I always say, from Amazon to Zoom with Disney and, NVIDIA in between. I did that for 5 years. And then I've led ecosystems and alliances for us at Deloitte for the last couple of years, which is an incredible honor. It's how we bring together partnerships like Workspan plus Deloitte plus Cohere plus DataStax, et cetera, and how we make huge impact with clients around the globe. So pretty exciting stuff.
Absolutely. One thing that has always struck me about is your energy. I'm told that you recently came back from a hiking trip in Scotland and you hiked 90 miles over in the 6-7 days you were there. Is that true?
That is right. Our family, so I've got a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old, Gregory and Zoe, and we rarely get together as just the 4 of us. And so we were able to sneak a 10-day trip into Scotland, where we spent the first part in the Isle of Skye. And then we did what's called the Rob Roy Way across the Scottish Highlands, which was really super gorgeous. So grateful for that time.
Fantastic.
Take time away from the ecosystem and take time for the Kosmowski ecosystem.
Yeah. It starts with the family ecosystem first, right? I had a few prepared questions, and then there's a lot of open questions from the community that we can take here. First, we just talked about the deep tech stack. We talked about the ecosystem first approach, how solutions are going to be built. But you observed from your experience, the past ecosystems with big data and cloud, and even before that with client server, right? What is different about the Gen AI ecosystem, Jessica, according to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, firstly, the ecosystem is huge. It was huge before January 2023, and it's just gotten even bigger since then. So there's no question that, with or without this Gen AI, phenomenon, it was already really big. But now what we're seeing is that there's so many more entrants coming on the scene. And those entrants are everything from, really Gen AI specialists like Cohere through to people or organizations that are more industry or subsector focused to help solve problems. And so really what is important is that we want to make sure that we're keeping track of all the ecosystem. So that's number one. It's really big. Number two, it's happening. The pace of change is, really intense. And so the second thing is the new entrants are coming on scene, in a much more rapid fashion than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you're taking a look at these discoveries that are coming on sort of on a monthly basis is really important. You talked about actually Dell, the Dell Tech World last week, and how what's really interesting is many of these players are together at many of these forums. So you see the ecosystem coming to life on the big stage. And it just goes to show that they're continuing to work together more and more. Bill McDermott's comment that we've talked about a couple of times underscores the fact that there will be more and more entrants across all these different aspects of businesses because so many things are going to have large scale transformations around them. So that's the second thing. And then lastly, of course, as you think about this ecosystem, is you need to also not forget that players are reinventing themselves.
Yeah.
And so what you thought Oracle did 5 years ago is not at all what Oracle still does, some of that. But Oracle is also continuing to evolve and transform, as is Amazon, as is fill in the blank. No one is standing still. And so it's really, really critical. So again, the first thing is there was already a lot of people in this race, but there's many, many more that are coming on. The second is the pace is unbelievable, and the types of alliance, the types of partners are not just tech people, but also industry specific. And then the third, of course, is that you got to keep up with what's going on with our with these tech players because they're transforming at the speed of light as well. So hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely, Jessica, it does. As more and more entrants come into the market and old players also kind of reinvent themselves with partnerships, especially, but it's all about trust at the end of the day. Like, who do you trust to actually deliver the solution? Is the solution trusted enough? And I saw a recent study from IDC which said that service partners, in particular GSIs, have a very strong trusted relationship with their end customers. In fact, they quantified it by saying 46% trust preference, which is incredible. Now, so my question to you is, what do you guys bring to the table that people are trusting you with Gen AI like no other, player in the stack, if you will?
Well, I mean, there's a few things that are core to Deloitte that I think allow for trust. In particular, one is we've been around for 177 years. Wow. We've worked with every organization across planet Earth, whether it be for-profit, non-for-profit, government, et cetera. So the reach that Deloitte has is kind of unparalleled. That's thing one. And also, as a part of thing one, the things that we're doing with these organizations is the heart of what they care a lot about, between our audit footprint, our tax footprint, and of course, our consulting footprint. So if you step all the way back, I think that the baseline for trust has been built over an extended period of time. And that's true for the other players as well. And, as we said earlier, some of these entrants are new to the scene. And so it takes time to build relationships and build brand and build trust. But the things that we think about in particular when we're working with an organization is we first come in understanding the client itself. What are they looking to do? And we have an amazing set of deep industry and sector expertise that allows us to have a real conversation and a point of view as to what's going on in that industry or sector. So if it's a restaurant chain, what's the restaurant of the future look like? If it's a hospital system, what does care look like for the future? If it's a postal system, what do we think about transportation for the future? What does it mean for customer service for the future? What does the front office and back office looks like? And all that is really important because it helps thinking about unlocking the business need. And then the second thing is we look at their tech stack. We have a huge history of understanding tech. So if you understand what the client issues are and have some sort of view into what the future should look like, but then you take a look at their tech stack so that you're not cooking up something that's not going to work with all of the embedded tech that they have or the licensed promises that they've made for the future. That's the second piece, is creating something that works within their environment is critically important. And then the third is bringing our breadth of offerings to the table. So if they're looking to do some sort of a transformation around customer care in a hospital, for instance, or around supply chain for semiconductors, for instance, we can then bring in our tax experts or others to actually help think about some aspects that they hadn't even thought through that may even fund some of this transformation or help them from a gotcha perspective later down the road. So it's a long history of trust. It's understanding the industry super duper well. It's understanding what their tech stack looks like so you're not putting something forward that's impractical or super costly. And it's bringing some additional services to bear so that you can help them either future-proof, save money, or keep themselves out of trouble. That's what I think is the magic with all this.
Fantastic, Jessica. I often lead with examples in these sessions. What would be a good illustrative example of what you talked about, where partnership or a customer group came together, orchestrated by Deloitte to kind of transform an industry, for example?
Yeah. So if you're a chief technology officer, a chief transformation officer, a chief innovation officer of any one of these organizations, I see that the stream is choppy, and I know I'm not supposed to say what people are saying on the private chat, but this is so I apologize, everybody. Okay, so back to what we see as bringing this to life. If let's call yourself a chief transformation officer.
Yeah. Jessica, we may have lost you there. Give us a second where we will bring Jessica back again.
Okay. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now, Jessica.
Okay. Maybe the chief transformation officer of Comcast just fixed my cable. Anyhow, you get bombarded by the players that you have in your tech stack with what they have to offer. So you'd have, a Google or an Amazon talking with you about what they can do. You've got an NVIDIA talking with you about what they can do. You've got an
Jessica, we lost you again there. Chip, how about this? I remove my cam for now, and let's see if that helps out the feed.
Yeah, I think we lost Jessica. Your feed is coming through well.
Okay.
It's the line coming in from Jessica that's having
Yeah, no worries.
with. So
yeah, let's see if she can join back in and give it a minute. Yeah, no, exciting conversation so far. I felt like we're just getting to the meat of the Gen AI examples that she was about to talk through.
Yeah, and some good questions coming in from attendees as well. So.
Thank you for your patience, guys. We'll give it a minute and let's see. Fun thing in the prep sessions that we had with Jessica, she was very excited about talking about the next Gen AI ecosystem that they are working on. So very exciting.
Team, can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes.
Jessica. All right.
All right. Third time is a charm, Jessica.
Maybe. Let's hope.
Let's
Your
hope. Fingers crossed.
your audio has been nice and solid the whole time.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to get in on my phone, and that's not working either. Okay.
Okay.
So,
No worries.
so nonetheless, if you're one of these executives, you have people coming at you left, right, and center. So a few things that we've done. One is with a global 10 consumer goods product company, we actually took them offline with a few different players and talked specifically about their actions and what they needed to do. So you can imagine we brought together some of the people that we've talked about on this call already into a room to really get in with them. So Amazon, NVIDIA, Salesforce, and other players, together with our teams, together with our industry experts, to help them really make sense of what this could all mean for them. And then coming out of it, they went from small idea to big idea and things that they can do to take to production. So that's pretty exciting. Another way we looked at this is from a sector perspective, bringing multiple companies together. And actually talking about sector-specific issues. So we've done it in energy and resources. We've done it in many industries. And so you have them come together for an executive briefing center type of a conversation where you talk about the art of the possible. And you don't actually go in with the answer to what these issues are. You go in with some hypotheses, and then you take it forward from there and see what you can ideate together. So pretty exciting different things. This is, different approaches. One is going deep with one organization, and one is actually bringing multiple organizations together in a sector and really jamming on what the art of the possible could be. So it's really taking it from people being bombarded to taking it to solutions that can work for them specifically.
Yeah, given the amount of Gen AI projects and experience you already have, what can people on this call learn from some of the challenges or things that you've had to overcome, either with clients or with partners across this solutions?
Yes. So the first thing is sometimes people come in, and I always say there can be a mile wide and an inch deep. So they have a little bit of an idea of what they want to do all over the place. And you can imagine that that's not going to accelerate to impact, because that doesn't really help. You want to be more broad or be more deep in a specific area. So really helping them think about what the use cases are that will drive impact. And then interesting does not equal important. So an interesting use case does not mean it's either going to drive revenue, drive cost, drive customer delight, drive, sustainability and climate insights. So choosing something that's going to have big power for the future is critically important, and then going there. So just because it's interesting doesn't mean it's important. The third is what I always call is leave no one behind. Mm-hmm. So, we talk a lot about the technology. We don't talk as much about the human capital part of this, but organizations have hundreds of thousands, millions of people working for them. Those people are there today, they'll be there tomorrow. So how do you bring them along the journey so that they can be the active co-pilots with the technology and, keep the train on the tracks with what's going on, and have them be a part of the journey, not being sort of on the sidelines. So we think that's really critical for the future. And then the fourth thing is, because this sits in so many places in organizations and nowhere at the same time. Really understanding who's on first. So who's going to be the person that is really responsible for this, and not just responsible for the POC, but really responsible for the taking it into production from there.
Absolutely. What occurred to me as we were speaking through is that it's actually an ecosystem coming together where parties need to be connected. You're working collaboratively, putting the solution together, often with multiple partners within the same scenario. We talked about Cohere, Google, AWS, Databricks and DataStacks, and companies coming together doing this work, right? So a question emerges like, what are you doing to connect, to automate, and drive these next gen partnerships together, Jessica?
Yes. So the true partnership goes beyond transactional to transformational.
Right.
By the way, even in 2022, everyone could sort of do their thing. You would have an SAP implementation, maybe or maybe not. You had a cloud implementation. Some people were getting ahead and understanding their data, so they had a data transformation going on, et cetera. But in today's world, it's not about this being transactional. It's about this being transformational, and transformational means you need to bring many players together. I liken it to an orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the strings section, and we've got the wind section, and you need to not only bring the string section together with the violins and the cellos, et cetera. Yeah. You need to bring the wind section together with the oboes and the clarinets and the flutes. And what's interesting is trust is a critical component to that. And most of these players haven't been playing well together in their own sections, much less as the full orchestra. Right. So we're constantly talking about what is the strategic value for each player in this ecosystem, so that the orchestra comes together and plays a beautiful sonata, and in some cases with new instruments on the scene that have never been there in the last couple of years. So it is a non-trivial thing to tackle, but it's critically important if we're really going to tackle the largest transformational problems that our clients have. I feel like my time in the U.S. government working on diplomacy is critically important as we think about bringing these players together for impact.
Absolutely, Jessica.
And a great example by that way is Deloitte and WorkSpan. So we've been together since 2017. We talked about this pre-call, and the things that we're doing for us to co-sell is critically important. And having a long-term relationship like we have with you makes it more simple for us to drive that forward. And your trust and security standards are really, really high. So understanding what you bring to the table and what we bring to the table is incredible as we think about big client impact. So hats off to you and the role that you play across this ecosystem.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been an honor to work with you and with your team, especially the data and AI ecosystem team, driving the next gen partnerships in this space, right? So incredible teamwork with you guys. So thank you for saying that. One last question from my side, and then I'll move to the Q&A from the audience here. We've seen the rise of the CPO, the Chief Partner Officer, and this is kind of a dedicated role to kind of bring together leaders, and you yourself play that role. So I have two-part questions there. How do you see this evolving? Why is this important now? And what advice would you have for future partner leaders who are aspiring to be Chief Partner Officers?
Right, absolutely. So we talked about, this ecosystem as being critical and lots of players inundating different organizations, and this who's on first is really important. So that's why you're seeing this Chief Partner Officer role come to be, because the Chief Partner Officer can be the people who are pulling this all together. It's critically important if you're in an organization that's looking to do large, I call it big T transformation. Mm-hmm. Big T transformation requires, the conductor of the orchestra or the Chief Partner Officer. So it's important that this is a role that has clear roles and responsibilities, and that's elevated to be a part of the C-suite so that they can be that, conductor with the rest of the pieces of the orchestra. So that's what I think is truly important on this. And then the other thing that's truly important is that this this person is allowed to not only understand what's going on in the current stack of their tech, but also to keep their eyes open for things that are around the horizon so they can bring the right people in, organizations in, to drive value for the organization. So those are a few thoughts on that. But definitely we see that as a rising trend that I don't think will stop.
Absolutely. So tremendous conversation, Jessica, even though we had some challenges with the video, but we could hear you very clearly. The audio was coming through very nicely. With that, Chip, why don't we take some audience questions? And if you can moderate those questions, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, fantastic session, Jessica. And sorry for the technical issues.
It's all me. Let's blame it on Comcast.
Really interesting question from Greg. Greg Latto says, how's your Deloitte team adjusting internally to the pace of change in the sector? You partnered with Deloitte for quite a bit, and in today's pace, critical partners will change before you can even operationalize the partnership within Deloitte. How do you think about that? How are you able to keep up with that kind of change?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about it internally and externally. From an internal perspective, we continue to take a look at what we call our storefront and make sure that we've got the right pieces of our storefront together for best impact for our clients and to make it easy for us to go to market with our alliance partners. And so actually in a few days, we will be kind of reconfiguring ourselves to make it easier for us to go to market with our alliance partners and to continue to execute on these big T transformations with our clients. That's internally. Also internally, we're obviously constantly evolving the way that we provide professional services, whether it be through the audit lens, through the tax lens, or through big tech transformation. So we're modernizing the way that we go to market using breakthroughs like GenAI to make our services as evolved as possible. And then the third is that we really are thinking about how we use these technologies to create new businesses, to create new things that we're taking to market, and in conjunction with our alliance partners, building big new things that are really going to disrupt ourselves and disrupt this industry. So that's how we think about it. We are the largest professional services firm on planet Earth. And so we believe that we have a responsibility in all three of those places to bring the profession along.
That's great. That's great, Jessica. Really interesting questions that just came in from Farhat. Hi, Farhat. Who will be the buyers in the Gen AI era, and what will they be buying? Who will they be buying from? How will they be paying for it? It's a lot of questions, but I think the question is sort of who are the buyers? What are the use cases that you're seeing?
So I can take it if you want to, and then chime in. So what we're seeing is, it's a business problem, right? So a business problem is underpinned by solutions to that problem. So most organizations aren't like running around saying, I need a NVIDIA chip or chipset. They're running around saying, we have these issues that need solving, and we're going to need this team to come together to do so. And so then you see us pulling together, convening a certain number of players based on their tech stack to help solve that problem. In the end, it includes the software layer, includes the data layer, and then it get cloud and all the way down to the chipset. So in the end, the chips do get sold, but they get sold through the ISVs or these new private LLMs that are being built. But we don't lean in with the NVIDIA sale. We lean in with the customer problem sale, and then we pull it all together. And all these different players are a part of it. But we go through the lens of what the business problem is first.
Yeah, in fact, I would add to it. And in fact, this would be a good one to bring Colleen on to answer as well, because I'm sure she has a very unique perspective on this. Hey, Colleen.
Hi, good to see you guys. Jessica.
Warm
hey,
welcome.
Colleen, great seeing you.
You too.
I know you guys have worked a lot together as well. And Colleen is VP of Partner Programs and Partnerships at Google. Has had a tremendous career across so many companies. We'll do a formal introduction later. But let's get to the question, Colleen. I wonder what your take to this is. The question being asked was, what are the roles of ISVs, GSIs, and hyperscalers in particular in putting together these solutions? And if I can add one more question that came into the channel, how has the sales process or the buying process been different with GenAI?
Well, I could tell you what we're seeing for sure. I'll start with the last question, the sales process. It is a show and tell sales process like nothing I've ever seen before. I think Jessica's absolutely right. No one's coming in there asking for what is this specific technology that I need to solve this problem. This more so than ever, they're just coming with this is the problem and this is the outcome I need to drive. I'm not really, and it's more on the user piece than the IT department. So they want to see just show me with my data, what's the outcome that you can drive for me in my specific industry. And I think that's where really the skill set of Deloitte and others comes into play. Of they have that expertise. Typically, they're very embedded with the customer, and they can share like, absolutely, here's how you identify the proteins for your drug development perspective, if you will. And so I think it's really important when you think about it from an ISV perspective too, is oftentimes those are the applications that those end users are used to dealing with. So they want to see the information and the answers in Epic, if it's a healthcare piece, or Blue Yonder, if it's supply chain. So I think those ISVs embracing AI as well and saying, how do we answer some of these complex questions? And how do we get access to that data sitting in all of those different applications? That's also a whole nother challenge of bringing that all together that as an industry, we really haven't had to tackle. So, but I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing in that is just a need to touch and feel and see what will that solution look like for me. Each end user is asking that.
Absolutely. So what a great answer. And it's great to see the collaboration between you guys at Deloitte and at Google as well. So Jessica, I'll give you the final floor. Any last message to the whole community here?
I think be bold. Constantly be curious, be bold. The world is changing. Even if you think that you're an expert at something, you're absolutely not an expert at something because the world is changing. So, just constantly be out there with these different forums, stay educated, and read, listen to podcasts, do all those things. There's a lot of content out there, and stay up to date. That's my biggest piece of input. Also, get outside, because there's a whole world out there as well, just waiting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay on your computer a bit, but get outside as much as you can as well to use your brains in a different way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jessica, for giving your time to this community here. We really appreciated your insights coming from tremendous expertise over the past 25 years. And on a personal level, huge joy to work with your team as we enable co-sell across the ecosystem. Thank you for being great partners as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Talk to you soon. See ya.
Yeah. Ciao. All right, Colleen. Thank you for giving us your time as well. Just quick intro. We have like 600 registrations for the event. Hundreds have joined live. So warm welcome from the whole community to you. Thanks for jumping in on the last question.
I'm going to step out, let you guys take over.
Thank you, Chip. So, Colleen, I'll give a very brief intro. I don't think I'll do justice, but you began your career way back consulting, developing channel strategies for a lot of clients at Compaq, HP, Inktomi, and then you've gone on to build. Really, I've seen you from the sidelines, building partnerships at Citrix, VMware, Snowflake, and now Google.
You dated me, Amit.
Yeah, and you've been on the CRN magazine Power 100 Women for over a decade, year after year, and one of the main channel chiefs in the ecosystem. And what fascinated me about, as we were building co-sell, is your early and pioneering work at VMware. You literally invented the deal reg system, as we know.
It was very early days with Ross Brown. Actually, before that, even at Citrix Systems. So it was many moons ago. Learning from the franchisee models in automobile industry, actually. This is where some of the initial thoughts came from.
Fantastic. Actually, I didn't know that. And we'll talk about the two-sided deal registration now with CoSell coming in, right? Just as you can register, the partner can register, you can also share opportunities back and forth with them. We'll talk about that though. But we've already done a little bit of your journey. Tell a little bit more about your role at Google now, and why you're so excited about this role.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it is running all the partner programs, all the incentives, and then owning, if you will, some of the routes to market, all of the regional and strategic SIs, all of the online partnerships, the telco partnerships, any partnership that it gets interesting and creative, the multinational solution providers, you name it, they're probably in there. And frankly, we're thinking of new sort of routes to markets too. We're looking at the what we're calling the AI MSP as well, because we really think partners are going to play even a bigger services provider role in the AI space than ever before.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. We are seeing emergence of already data and AI specific services companies. And because these models need to be frequently trained and retrained, definitely there's an ongoing engagement and understanding of the last mile customer needs and their data security and their own kind of needs that an MSP truly understands.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thought. You've called, I was reading your CRN article, and you've called AI Google's birthright. A statement out there. Can you speak a little bit to the AI strategy and what is the Google role in the AI ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it was a good time for me, frankly, to join Google, coming from Snowflake previously. That was really a baptism in data, if you will, and really understanding that partner ecosystem and the data solutions and everything that comes with it. And it was a fabulous time to learn and get really depth in data. And then as things evolved and looking at AI, obviously Google's been doing AI for over a decade with DeepMind, with the chips, tensor processing, TPUs, instead of just GPUs. It was interesting. CRN actually came out recently with an article that said if Google sold their chips, which we don't, we use them internally, we would be the third largest chip maker in the world. That's saying something, and on track to pass some other very large, well entrenched chip makers. So, and the TPUs was built for AI. I mean, it literally built to make it easier for data to flow. So I think we've been thinking about this as a company really from the infrastructure up, from a networking perspective, down to the chipset, and all the way through from a security perspective through to the data from a BigQuery perspective and Vertex from a search perspective. So AI is sort of embedded, even in workspace. AI is embedded into workspace. It is embedded into everything that Google is doing, also on the Alphabet side as well. So it is, search, what I've learned more and more is really what AI is a quest for information, which is really at the heart of that is about search and learning and organizing the world's information, which is Google's mission statement, and it fits nicely from an AI perspective. So to say we are all in is an understatement.
Yep.
And really to see that we have the platform from the chipset all the way to our own large language models, which is Gemini, which is just amazing to watch and see it. I invite AI into my work life every single day. If I had one piece of advice, I would ask others to do that as well. I think integrating and using AI daily gets you more to better understanding of what it's capable of doing. At the same time, we have the majority of the AI large language model startups also on the Google infrastructure. So we have a pretty open ecosystem viewpoint, though we have our own large language models too. We have the likes of Anthropic and Cohere and everyone else also choosing our infrastructure to host their AI models on as well. Because I think they understand that we have a deep understanding of the needs for large language models from an infrastructure perspective.
Fantastic. So a lot of assets yourself that you build literally from the inception of Google, but also an open ecosystem model, right? This ecosystem first business that we are getting into with GenAI. And you have this open ecosystem. Could you share some examples of where GenAI has come in and transformed either industries with your industry value network example, or in general what you've seen with ISVs and MSPs today?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. Going to next, what we had in April in Las Vegas, Amit, it was just a giant science fair, if you ask me,
Yeah.
because it was in production examples of partner after partner in their booths showing what they've done from the automobile perspective to manufacturing to supply chain. And these weren't sort of demos or pre-canned visions. What I saw was hundreds of in production AI examples. And I think that's what surprised me the most is this wasn't as much as vision selling as actually running. One of the ones that I saw that is sort of near and dear to my heart was Quantify, one of our great SI partners, and what they did with Bear and how they're using it, AI in radiology. There are some very complex, rare lung diseases, and it's very difficult for the average radiologist to find the markers. And so if they've trained an AI system, which is what Quantify did with Bear, to identify some of those early onset markers in radiology, they're able to then tell the radiologist, like, hey, though you're looking for, typically the more common things, this is a less common, less trained identifier. And this person's at high risk for this. And it's actually now a product that Bear brings out to their radiology customers. And so it was very interesting to see how a partner is bringing their in-depth experience on the Google technology, and not just how the company's using it, but how the company is creating new products that have never been identified before and creating new revenue streams. And that's what was amazing to me. And to do that, they worked very closely, obviously, with the Google team, with the Bear team. To say it was a partnership is really an understatement. And they had in Quantify experts in lab and radiology on the team to help with how to make these actual products. So it was a depth of understanding of the customer's problem set and industry like I've really never seen before. Those sorts of things and seeing those solutions on it over and over again were pretty amazing to see how we can improve lung disease identification.
Absolutely. And I think what's really unique, I saw this example as well at Next, and what's really unique was how, the expertise around managing data and AI, especially with Google, Quantify was able to take that and marry the industry expertise very quickly within their teams to do that in partnership with the customer, actually. So in a way, customer is also a co-innovation partner.
Exactly. And I think it's getting us to be creative. And that's why I say it was a bit of a science fair, if you will, because I was seeing a level of creativity that just wasn't like, here's how the product works, but here's what the end user customer experienced. And that was the part that I'm like, okay, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you joined the Q&A piece, but I'll still ask you this question again. I think you are evolving your partner program to be, Gen AI ecosystem, open ecosystem ready as well. And you're seeing not only examples like Quantify with, SIs and MSPs changing, you're seeing every player in the industry shift and adapt itself. Can you give us some, thoughts around how do you think partners need to evolve or change, or programs, even partnership programs need to change and evolve?
Yeah, I think a lot. I have a lot of different thoughts on that, but just a couple, Amit. I think we've talked as partner professionals for a very long time about partners needing to be services oriented. That's been a dialogue for 15 plus years.
Yeah.
The need to deliver on that is stronger now than ever before. And I think partners who've been strong technology sellers, who've known that services revolution has been coming and kind of dabbled in it, they're getting very serious about it now, because when you're talking about a technology that's so easy for so many users to begin adapting, this is just using native language and beginning to see the possibilities. They want someone holding their hand through that experience. And to your earlier question too, it's in conjunction of having sort of that trusted service provider along with the applications that they're used to using, and then along with the right model at the right time for that specific need. There's model proliferation. The rate of change is like nothing we've ever seen before. Getting the right model in and being used and doing the right level of training is something that every customer is going to need help with. So I think that's what we're seeing is this evolution. And so when you think about your partner programs, technical know-how is more important than ever. Understanding what's the art of the possible, more important than ever before, because things are more possible than we've ever frankly dreamed of as an industry. Understanding those use cases and what's happening and that industry expertise, I think, because you're not dealing with the IT department, you're dealing with the creatives, you're dealing with the product owners, you're dealing with the marketers, you're dealing with the service providers, you're dealing with the customer experience teams more so than ever before. And look, we've said that as practitioners, as partner people, frankly, but the rubber's meeting the road now, and now you need to walk in the shoes of those users and understand the problems they're trying to solve. So that's why redesigning and ensuring that your programs are services oriented and co-sell oriented, because we all kind of have to sell together. The one-legged sales call is gone. This is a 2, 3, could be 4-person sales call, if you will, across multiple different vendors coming together to solve these problems. So I think that's where it's getting really interesting, and the need to communicate across that sales process across different partner organizations is just increasing.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of resonance in the community comments here from that point of view. I also know that Google is setting up co-sell in a very big way. We have some part to play in that. But why is co-sell important? I think let's dwell on that point a little bit. You talked about it's no longer a one-legged race. It's also show and tell with my data, right? So in this context, can you contextualize the partnerships that you have and why is co-sell?
I think you said the key word there, Amit, which is data. This is all about data. And there's still a lot of trust issues. There's still a lot of security issues. There's a lot of compliance and legal issues to work through when you get to AI and when you want to bring it out from an organization out to their end users. And because of that, the relationship that the buyer has to have with each individual vendor to make sure we have the right liability and the right legal protections in place due to the data exposure, I think, is increasing. And so who transacts that deal may be more direct than what we've seen in the past, but that doesn't necessarily reflect what the sales process is going to look like. The sales process is going to have heavy partner integration, heavy ISV integration, heavy probably cloud provider integration, with each party doing its own direct relationship with the customer for their portion of the deal. And so that flow of information of what is this opportunity, how are we working together, who's got the right skill set, what's the application that the customer chooses to use and wants to experience that, I think that's going to increase the need for co-sell. So though we're selling together, it really important, but those relationships are going to need to be happening direct from a sales perspective, whether it's the services side, the app side, or the infrastructure side, because of those data liability issues that those customers are going to have.
Fantastic, Colin. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that ultimately the co-sell reduces the end customer's risk. They makes it more secure, more compliant with their data on the latest technology. And this skill set may be with different players, and each kind of needs to own the end customer relationship.
Yeah.
So we've been lucky to work with you guys on co-sell for years now. Any insights on co-sell with WorkSpan, or how have you guys seen this experience so far?
I think we're seeing sort of the emergence of marketplaces here, with co-sell being a big piece of that, especially with the ISV community. Marketplaces are on the rise. I think it's an easy experience for an end user to have, to find multiple different solutions, how are we integrating together, and then also the use of solution catalogs. So that's where I'm seeing, Amit, really extreme growth, if you will, of, hey, okay, these products are on a particular vendor's marketplace. Okay, I have this, typically if there's a vendor there that they've chosen to have a decent amount of built up bandwidth in terms of funds. I want to use that for a complete solution across multiple different products. How do I do that? And then the partners that represent both of those vendors sort of bringing it together. So I think the complexity of the sale has increased and the need to communicate has increased a much. But the need to do transactions through marketplace and somewhat trying to keep things simple has also increased at the same time. So it's sort of a dichotomy of things.
But that's an interesting insight. Like, while some parts have become more complex or more sophisticated, let's call it that way, because the customer solution is sophisticated, you need expertise. But there are some parts where, through co-sell automation with tools like Workspan or with marketplace integration, where the buying process has been simplified with cloud commits and whatnot, it's created the simplicity as well, because some parts have become more sophisticated, other parts have been simplified so that the partner manager can manage that. That's a very interesting insight.
Yeah, and I think everybody wants to see buy flow simple. I think we've learned with a lot of online shopping experiences, the simpler the process it is, the the easier you get to close, if you will. That's not the case for every large deal, obviously. But when you talk about a complete solution and all the components, an end user may need for it, they just want to have it as a simple process for bringing all those pieces together as best as possible.
Fantastic. That's really, really insightful, and I think instructive for partner leaders. I'll end with one question, and then I'll open it up to community to ask more questions. And I see a lot of them here, actually. What advice do you have for partnership leaders here in the community as we talk about this GenAI ecosystem? What should their outlook be? What should they do more of or less of?
I would say bring AI into your work life on a consistent basis. I think that's important. We're bringing AI into our own partner programs and literally looking to launch it and use it to make the experience easier for our partners. So the sooner you can get the partners to use AI within doing business with you as a vendor, I think the better off that you are. So that's something that we're really excited to be launching here this summer, using AI to allow partners to easily figure out, what rebates have they earned, what additional incentives have they earned, what discounts have they earned, what could they have earned, and asking questions and learning more about that. Because, we all have questions about money, I would say. So looking at how you can incorporate AI into your own partner programs and getting partners to experience AI for their businesses, I also would highly recommend. I think it's going to be illuminating for all of us and hopefully just make doing business easier.
Absolutely. Well, with that, let's bring Chip back in. There are a lot of questions from the community, so let's go.
All right.
A lot of questions. So I'm going to start with one of the later ones first, from Monica Agarwal. Hi, Monica. The co-sell process with most vendors in the market requires understanding the complexity inside their organization, roles, what motivates the sellers, joint value proposition. How is Google making this simpler?
Oh, great question. Well, Amit, maybe you can help me answer this as well, because I know Workspan is certainly making this easier for you. I'd love to hear your answers to this question too.
Oh, thanks for throwing that back. Monica, of course, co-sell is this bi-directional co-equal process, right? But it requires automation. It requires trust. So companies like Workspan, what we do is we go and work with Google CRM system, which is Vector. We earn their trust. We have an API connection back and forth. Same thing we will do on your side with your CRM system, establish that trust. So essentially what happens is sellers on your side can now send over opportunities with trust, with data security on what you can share, what you cannot share. And similarly, Google can accept or share where they are seeing opportunities. So this kind of automation frees up time. You don't do spreadsheets. You can also be dynamic, and you can put together different partners. So very recently, working with Colleen's team, we did the industry value networks, where an SI partner, we talked about Quantify, for example. They have to stitch together two ISVs in a given solution, so you can bring multiple. Either it could be just bidirectionally with Google, or could have more than two partners on it. Doesn't matter, but all parties are literally on the same page. And I'm even more excited about what we're going to do in the next quarter or so. We've seen a huge trend in marketplace, Colleen. I would just want to underscore that. The fact that we can list on marketplaces, there's an endless aisle. You borrowed from automotive way back when you did the image. Now we are seeing, marketplaces as an endless retail aisle, if you will. Even GSI solutions are making their way into the marketplace as repeatable solutions now. instead of being custom built for each company, we are seeing a lot of SIs build and post solutions on marketplace. Yeah,
I think that's great for the mid-market. I think it makes it simpler for customers to get their arms around. Also in a harder economy, it makes cost really like, what's it going to take for me to get this up and actually running and productive so I can show my company back value. So I think especially in the mid-market, those packaged services and solutions are really gaining a lot of traction with the customer base.
absolutely. And just the growth in the marketplace with the model gardens, data sets are now kind of entering the marketplace. Previously, we had just applications. So it's the marketplace is exploding with the Gen AI applications, data sets, models, and end user put together scenarios as real solutions people can buy. So anyway, back to
Well
you.
said.
Another good question here from Mark Monday. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
So many good friends here
Oh, Mark.
on the event today. Can you dig deeper into co-marketing, lead into co-sell? We tend to focus so much on the transactional side of co-sell and not as much on the lead sourcing attribution. What's the special sauce here?
Great question, Mark. Good to see you virtually, at least. I love seeing familiar faces. I think this is a great question because what we really have is the partners have a lot of that industry expertise. In many cases, unless you're the ISV, we've really got horizontal solutions. We like to say they're industry oriented, but it's really the specific ISVs in each vertical that have those solutions. So when you talk about that lead generation process, again, because it's a show and tell experience, the customers want to hear it in their industry, in their sub-industry, with their specific vernacular and their specific problems. And frankly, the partners are the ones that have a lot of that expertise and are trusted there and have developed that specializations for decades. I mean, this is not new to a lot of the SI community, frankly. They've figured this out and gone deep and built that expertise. So doing those marketing events that are industry specific and showing those solutions and showing how this technology can come together and using the vernacular of the industry and the solutions, I think it's more critical than ever before. So I think that co-marketing together and hitting maybe some things that you're not typical of hitting in a vendor perspective, going to Mobile World Congress if you're looking at a telco solution, if you will, going to HIMSS if you're going to a healthcare solution, along with partners and doing those things and showing, hey, here's how the technology comes together end to end. I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, but the reality is we've developed a lot of these solutions and these proof of concepts to show customers. It's not what the customer ends up buying, but it gives you permission to dive deeper into those customers saying, I understand what your issues are. I understand your industry. I understand what nurse practitioner rates and scheduling issue you have. I've built up a solution here. But then typically they want a more bespoke solution for their needs. But those joint marketing events between us and an SI or us and an ISV and an SI together to build that lead gets you into the door on a deeper level and a more trusted level than we've seen before. Great question, Mark.
Yeah, I've seen this partner leads turn into actual opportunities way more than just pure cold calls, let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're up on time. So
All right.
Colleen, gosh, thank you. And
well, gentlemen, thank you so
conversation.
much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm more excited than ever to be part of this AI journey. I think it's, we've seen these waves come, and I think we as an industry are embracing this faster and more that like, well, maybe it'll stick, maybe it won't thing. We're beyond that now as a tech industry. You're like, oh, here's the next wave. Let's figure out how we jump on it and ride it and get the most out of it. And I'll tell you, it's been an amazing journey with Google and watching where we're at. And I think we're just at the beginning of this journey too. So it's a pleasure working with you guys. We're excited to have Workday as an amazing partner in our marketplace and our co-sell journey. And thank you, Amit, for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Thanks for your trust in WorkSpan and larger community and ecosystem out there across your entire career arc. We've seen that. So congratulations and thank you.
I just said Workday, didn't I? I had a conversation with Workday this morning, and goodness gracious, apologies, WorkSpan, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Colleen.
Thanks,
Bye.
Colleen.
Thank you.
Okay, Amit, thank you. And now you'll get an award to give out.
Awesome.
So welcome, Puneet. Puneet is our Chief Operating Officer and CFO at WorkSpan, 6 years at WorkSpan. And welcome, Puneet.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks, Amit. That was a great conversation with Colleen. Thanks for handing off.
Of course.
So I'll dive into the award, Chip, if you can bring up the slides.
Yes.
So as you bring up the slides, I just wanted to give a little bit of a precursor to these awards. So WorkSpan is tremendously excited to orchestrate a lot of these partnerships that are now taking place in the ecosystem, with a lot of the ISVs, the GSIs, the MSPs, and the cloud hyperscalers coming together. So we have started doing these quarterly awards, and these awards are a testament of how companies have scaled their partnerships and how they have used the WorkSpan automation to achieve very meaningful results. So we have a very thriving ecosystem of customers on that. We are proud to choose 3 today, 2 nominees and 1 winner. And without much ado, I'll dive into the nominees and why they made it through the list. So Chip, if you can flip to the next one. So what do we celebrate? We are celebrating innovation. We are celebrating value addition as the better together story, the impact of these partnerships as they have grown the ecosystem, the adoption, which goes to the tooling, right? The tooling, the application, the WorkSpan application, how they have brought it all together, the advocacy in that ecosystem, and the collaboration. All these make for very good benchmarks as we evaluate some of the nominees and some of the winners. So that's how we are putting this list together. All right, so I'll talk about our couple of nominees and then I'll announce the winner. So our first nominee is ServerWorks. ServerWorks, for those of you who don't know, it's a company out of Japan. It's a global organization. It works with hyperscalers like Amazon to streamline partner collaboration, improve co-sell effectiveness, and enhance revenue generation. They implemented WorkSpan to overcome challenges with data duplication and inefficient management of opportunities. And the commitment to the relationship with AWS is underscored by the fact that they have an SCA with Amazon. They're part of the AWS Managed Service Provider Program and have AWS competencies, validating their track record of providing end-to-end AWS solutions to customers at every stage of the cloud journey. ServerWorks was also named as 2023 AWS Ambassador in the Global Summit. And their experience with WorkSpan and AWS highlight significant improvements in partner collaboration, co-selling effectiveness, and operational efficiency. So that's why ServerWorks is nominated. We are very proud to have them as a customer and shows the global footprint at which WorkSpan functions. The second nominee is Automation Anywhere. Automation Anywhere, I think that's a more familiar name for people on the state side. They have seen significant improvements in partner engagement and interaction with AWS in North America, EMEA, Middle East, LATAM, APJ, and India. We work very closely with Patricia, who's our champion over at Automation Anywhere. She's partnered with us very closely. And what she's been able to do is quickly, easily submit and update referrals in Salesforce, especially those linked to the AWS SCA. Again, Automation Anywhere is part of the SCA program. They are a leader in the AI space, the theme of this conference today, and their process automation using AI has been exemplary. They are making tremendous strides in generative AI, and they offer process discovery, RPA, end-to-end process orchestration, document processing, analytics with the security and governance first approach. Their introduction to the industry's first generative AI automation model is built on extensive data from over 150 million automation processes. And they have set a new standard in the market. They're delivering massive productivity gains and 9x return on investment. They are also sponsoring 5 AWS summits this year. They are really leaning in London, in Dubai, Sao Paulo, Toronto, you name it, they're everywhere. So we are very proud to have them as a customer and as a nominee for this Co-Stars of Co-Sell Award. And last but not the least, and I think that's a good segue into inviting Abhishek, who leads the alliance over there, DataStax, right? So our proud winner is DataStax. They have done a lot in this space. They have outstanding achievements and significant improvements in partner operations through the use of the Workspan platform. They engaged with us a couple of years ago, and they engaged with us after migrating from a competitor. They streamlined all partner operations across all hyperscalers by adopting a multi-cloud partner approach and implemented the entire hyperscaler edition from Workspan, which included co-sell automation, marketplace listings, and automation of marketplace private offers. This transition was driven by the need for better support, a more reliable pricing model, and comprehensive visibility into the partnerships. The company itself, DataStax, is a winner of the Trust Radius 2024 Best of Awards, specifically in the Enterprise Generative AI category. DataStax has been recognized for the products that deliver exceptional value, an impressive feature set, and outstanding customer relationships. The commitment that DataStax has shown to being excellent partners with all three hyperscalers is underscored by the SCA with Amazon, the expansion of the GCP and Microsoft Azure partnerships underpinned by generative AI. DataStax experienced significant cost savings and improved operational efficiency on these partnerships, allowing the team to focus even more on their strategic aspects of the partnerships versus day-to-day execution. They experienced a 160% increase in AWS originated ops, a 210% increase in their self-generated ops, and these impressive results underscore the growth in the partner operations and partner strategy. So I'm very glad to have Abhishek come here as a recipient of the award. Abhishek, congratulations. Very nice to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you, Praneeth. Really excited. And would like to thank the team because a lot of our growth, you guys have been partners in that journey.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know Abhishek is the head of Global AWS Alliance at DataStax. Prior to this role, he managed the strategic partnerships at TIBCO, and he has a decade of experience in the tech industry. He's focused on partnership management in the past 6 years, quickly advancing to a global director position. And he has tremendous amount of expertise. We rely on Abhishek a lot of times as we are building our own partnership with Amazon. So our alliance leads reaches out to Abhishek a lot of times.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations, Abhishek. This is such a great honor to work with you, and congratulations on the award.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit. Just want to say you guys have been great champions. I've worked with many vendors, but with you guys, it's not a vendor-customer relationship. It's always a partner relationship. Love that.
Thanks, Abhishek. So let's build upon the dialogue. We will have a short dialogue. Chip, thanks for orchestrating, but we will spend a short 5-10 minutes just talking about how you have built out this partnership. So let's start from the very beginning, right? You have done a lot of great work with all the three hyperscalers, not just one. Can you share a little bit more about the strategy that you took, the recipe that you took as you achieved this level of success?
Yeah, absolutely right. So I think our success with the hyperscalers, it's been driven by cloud strategies centered on simplifying the GenAI app developer journey. We like to say we'll go meet the customer where they are. These days, it's the GenAI app developer. So we integrated with all the cloud GenAI services and their tooling. And then you couple this with our cloud marketplace first selling motion, and it's significantly contributed to our growth, right? So as Colleen was referring to, co-sell is the way to go. Marketplaces is the way to go. In fact, as we've been scaling, we recognize the need for automation. And that's when Amit, Puneet, we engage with Workspan. And you played a critical role in our growth journey, right? Automating key processes. You've helped us streamline the operations, reduce errors, really accelerated our GTM in a way, right? Me and my peers, we've been able to focus on strategic engagements with our cloud partners and just leave all the repetitive tasks to Workspan, and that's been working wonderfully, right? So I would say our acceleration, it's co-sell, it's lead with marketplaces, align. It just helps us align much better with the cloud account teams and meet our customer needs.
Yeah, that's amazing, Abhishek. We have seen some of the volumes that you guys have put on the marketplace. That's truly exemplary. I think you have really lead in with the three hyperscalers, and you have done an amazing job balancing out the three. Could you make it more real for the audience and share an example of the strategy and execution that you were just talking about, Abhishek?
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak to the AWS relationship. I've been much closer to that, right? So we worked very closely with the AWS partner team, and I think most of the Cloud Alliance folks would know this. It's co-build, co-market, co-sell. Co-sell is where we show all the results, but co-build, co-market are as critical. So we've seen significant growth with AWS, thanks to Workspan and like driving significant co-sell and marketplace transactions. That's obviously been backed by co-build, which is our integrations with Amazon Bedrock and other AWS tooling around it. And what it's actually resulted in is us signing a strategic collaboration agreement with AWS. This was around reInvent last year. That further accelerated our growth curve with them. We're seeing like significant growth in our AWS related engagements as a result. And it's not just co-sell. I think one of the previous questions was about, hey, do we talk about co-market? But like flywheel is an overused term, but now that we're seeing this success, we see AWS leaning in with AWS-led GenAI GTM programs for us. Like I have like 4 or 5 active campaigns which AWS wants to run for us, right? So I think it's just an example of if you start leaning in on automation, helps you scale, you focus on strategic relationships, it really helps you.
Yeah, Abhishek, that's amazing, right? Like you and I met at reInvent last year. First of all, congratulations on the SCA. I think that's a very big deal. I think at that time you were still working through, and what we have talked, you're making a very big presence at reInvent this year. So I'm excited to see what you guys have in store, because you come out with very exciting launches at the time of reInvent. I know you've been working on 4 or 5 stories already. So we'll see what the future has in store. What is also tremendously gratifying for me is we want to cultivate champions, and we want to make sure that we are part of your career growth story as well. Because as you give the operational heavy lift to us and can focus on the strategy and execution part of it, can you touch upon how this strategy impacted your overall career journey? I've seen you grow in the last 2 years. I am very excited to see what things are to come. What advice do you have for other partner leaders trying to do what you have done at DataStax?
Yeah, I think the strategies had a significant impact on my career, right? So it's helped me drive growth and innovation with my partners, AWS more recently, where especially after engaging you guys, I don't have to focus on the tactical day-to-day. I rely on you guys to do that. I can focus on strategic initiatives, because like the automation has helped me streamline the operations. It's freed up my time for more strategic engagements, which is where I don't have to worry about ACE or deal registrations or like how any of that is happening on a day-to-day basis, spend a whole Friday doing that. And I can actually spend that time meeting various AWS GTM teams, service teams, right? So for other partner leaders, my advice is embrace the automation. That's the way to scale and grow. Otherwise, you will just end up in like an Excel sheet model, right? So streamline your processes, improve efficiencies, embrace automation. Then leverage the cloud marketplaces. There's no way around it, whether it's AWS, GCP, or Microsoft. That is where the customers want you to be. Again, like we've recently now with Workspan migrated our marketplace listings on AWS, for instance, and like that's been great. Like there's an SFTC integration. Like our deal desk team loves it. So I would say do all of that. It'll help you focus on initiatives where you can make a disproportionate impact for your organization, and that's what we all want to do. So yeah.
Awesome. Abhishek, very nice to have you on board. Congratulations again on the award. Patricia, I see you have joined. Congratulations on your nomination from Automation Anywhere and ServerWorks. We are very excited what the future has in store for all of you. We are very excited to be part of that, play a small role in that journey. So thanks again for your partnership.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Fantastic. Great. So I think with that, Abhishek, thank you for joining, and we will move to the next part of our session and bring in Harry Alt. Very welcome.
Very excited for you to be here. Thanks so much for joining.
You start off with an award. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Amit, Puneet, for the recognition from the team. I think this has been an amazing partnership that's been critical to our growth. And Abhishek specifically, you referenced his some of his career progression. He took a leadership position at our company internally to advocate for expansion of our partnership. And that consisted of working with peers and discussing things, working cross-functionally with deals desk, with engineering, with other hyperscalers. And it was amazing to watch him do that, and he was recognized, by our CEO and many on the leadership team for that. And it's been a really positive move for us. So congratulations to Abhishek as well, and thank you for keeping the momentum going with our partnership at our company.
Absolutely, Harry. And thanks again for your partnership. We'll talk a little bit more about how that partnership is now deepening on both the sides, especially with the theme of this conference. But let's give the audience a little bit of a introduction to you. For those of you who don't know, Harry is a technology veteran. He's been in the industry for 20 years. He's played various roles at DataStax, various leadership roles at DataStax, and he's currently the EVP of Corp Dev and Partnerships at DataStax. So he's playing a critical role, a theme that appeals a lot to this audience, and he's driving strategic initiatives and he's fostering key partnerships at DataStax. Harry, let's start with an icebreaker. You are in a very sophisticated, I would call leading edge technology working with GenAI, but you had very different, like on the opposite spectrum, beginnings. So talk a little bit about it. I couldn't believe it when I first heard it. It seems like you grew up in a very rural background.
Yeah. No, ironically, I grew up in a town of 183 people in northeastern Pennsylvania, on a farm, that had field corn, hay and sorghum, and we, the nearest grocery store was probably 20 miles away. So real rural environment. When I was there and when I was young, I was dying to get out and see the world. And so, I was able to live in New York, live in Sydney, Australia, live in London. Now, my family and I live in San Francisco, and we've been here for, almost, I guess, about 20 years now. So, so San Francisco's home. The irony with it all is you live in these large cities and everything. You suddenly are dying to get back to away from all the craziness and back to those rural environments. But it was an amazing experience, just having independence and being able to shape direction. And I like to think a lot of the values that that was experienced there carry through, including still driving a pickup truck in San Francisco.
Yeah, 183 people. That's probably, you have more than that number of people in a building in New York and where you stayed. So it's probably very different. So let's dive into the themes, Harry. I think you have been on the leading edge, right? How is GenAI changing your business at DataStax? Let's dive into it, because I've seen that tremendous change happening. It's happening on the partnership level. Can you start at the very high level on how that is changing the business at DataStax?
Yeah, I mean, I think GenAI is having a transformative impact on almost all of us, right? And I think from a fundamental perspective, as we think about growing our business, I still look at key stakeholders, that we think about in scaling that business, right? And a primary stakeholder is, our field organization and how we create the right alignment and enablement to do big things with partners. There's obviously an ecosystem change. Amit referenced that around the new stack. And just the level of complexity, and so there's a prioritization exercise that needs to happen there. And then you can never, as a leader of your company, you can never lose sight of your buyers, right? Your enterprises, and in our cases, our developers that we are engaging with. So I think if I think about that as field organization, ecosystem partners, and our buyers, our enterprises and developers, GenAI impacts all of those segments, right? Mm-hmm. From a field team, how are we enabling the field team to drive greater pipeline generation and co-sell activities with our partners? There are baseline GenAI things that can help and foster that. There's and I'll talk more about that as we get through the session. From an ecosystem partner perspective, the static partner world that we were all in just a few years ago is now turned into this dynamic, constant blogs, constant announcements, and what it requires is a bit of a ruthless prioritization with your clear goals in mind and finding the right partners to align with, especially if product and engineering work is required. So, for us, there's obvious partners like our hyperscalers, that are critical to this, but the ecosystem is getting so broad. For us, as Abhishek mentioned, we are helping enterprises and their developers do new Gen AI app dev and take those applications to production. You have all types of ecosystem partners and tooling in Gen AI app dev that we have to align with and integrate with and co-sell with. The prioritization there is pretty key. The last thing I think is just not losing sight of our buyers, right? And finding the ways to celebrate success visibly, the high impact outcomes with those enterprises and developers that we do jointly in that co-sell motion. I give a few examples. We do a lot of field enablement, around celebrating things. Tomorrow, we've got one of our hyperscale partners and one of our technical leads that just drove a successful Gen AI developer day, a 6-hour session with one of our largest customers. And the outcome is, new pipeline, new opportunities for both our fields. How do we rinse, repeat, do that on both sides? Leveraging blog post is become the norm for us, right? We can move fast. We can showcase the wins, the success stories in Gen AI with our customers, and can move, way more quickly than with normal PR, AR type activities.
Right.
And so, move fast and leverage, and then, just common social activity, right? How do we promote and celebrate both internally and externally, and start using social more externally around these customer wins, to keep in front of mind with our partners. And there's different channels. I think all of us at the leadership level are really good at LinkedIn, but I mentioned for us, we are focused on developers. Developers aren't really hanging out on LinkedIn. So Discord, Twitter, other forums, and other mediums become important. But I think from a scaling the business perspective, there's synergy around all these areas, and supporting your field, building that strong ecosystem, and then just constantly reinforcing and demonstrating the value to build that flywheel with the ecosystem.
Right. And I think that's the part about Gen AI, right? The speed at which things are moving, the speed of the innovation. Like Colleen was saying that she has never seen a show and tell that's so transformative in the industry. And what you're talking about is just how the speed is just breathtaking. So with everything evolving so quickly, how can partner leaders better support the field? You talked a little bit about ideas, if you have anything to add there. And what are some of the challenges that you see in aligning the field and partnerships throughout that process?
Yeah, I think if Colleen, like you said, referenced this concept of bringing AI into your work life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And so from a leadership perspective, Gen AI is going to impact all of us and our teams and the ecosystems and partnerships we build, right? So we'll get more into the ecosystem side and how that develops. But I think it provides a lot of opportunities for us as leaders in the partner segment and ecosystem segment, to show leadership, within our companies and then with our partner ecosystems. So I kind of think of the real impact areas in go-to-market and the operational kind of automation and operational improvement or productivity elements as the primary areas where I look for our team to bring ideas, and I look to bring ideas to our executive team. And I think the most important thing in line with Colleen's comment is creating a team culture of sort of just challenging and facilitating curiosity, ideation, and experimentation around how Gen AI can impact your team's worlds, right? And when you think about just inspiring that curiosity and that concept of bringing automation, it's exactly what Abhishek did with our WorkSpan partnership, right? He saw the success with AWS. we were on team calls, and we would talk about it. We had other challenges that existed with automation, and other things with alternatives, and that led to having a really big impact for our company and expanding our Workspan partnership. So I think just creating that culture of leaning into Gen AI, bringing it into your work life, as Colleen mentioned, and I like to segment, at some level, the level of complexity of what those expectations should be with the team. There's base level things of using Chat GPT to derive insights on how to drive a go-to-market plan with a partner, to get better intel on install base or target markets. Those types of things. A lot of people use Chat GPT or other tools in Gen AI to more tightly hone and craft messages. You can even do it in an automated fashion on LinkedIn. So there's sort of like a baseline of letting it into your life, and I think there's a next level of looking at the partners that are in your ecosystem from an operational or go-to-market perspective. I'm an advisor at a company called Aviso. Aviso started as a RevOps tool that was a really sophisticated revenue operations tool, but now is transformed into all types of generative AI functionality. And so how do we challenge our teams as leaders to adopt those additional features, right? Like virtual assistants, and even push, as you push on, our Workspan partnership that has incredible levels of automation, but, how do we push on you to bring Gen AI into our worlds, right? So that next tier is, how do we leverage the systems that, and the tooling that we have around adopting? And then I think the more complex elements, for many of us is how do you get engaged with your leadership around, the broader Gen AI strategy and determine how you get into next generation, automation, productivity gains, in the ecosystem, right? So, a lot to be done, but it does involve that bringing Gen AI and into your work life and creating a culture that, brings ideas. And I think that, this is pretty key, and it's a great opportunity for us to move beyond just, the day-to-day operations and get into more impactful things for our company.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, right? Like the lines are blurring, everything has been taken over by Gen AI, and how you deal with customer, vendor, everybody is kind of like a partner, which leads us into this next question. How should partner leaders approach engagement with their partners to scale and actively participate in this Gen AI movement? You touched a little bit upon the engagement with hyperscalers, but if you can build upon those two pillars, like engagement with the partners and specifically with the hyperscalers, because the first iteration of this engagement was with the cloud revolution. And I think we are now in the second evolution of Gen AI. So
I'll probably, I'll spend less time on, I think we all work with the hyperscalers, right? And they play such a critical role into, where things are going in generative AI. At the end of the day, you're doing calls on LLMs that will be cloud-based, and things are increasingly adopted in managed cloud services. So when I think about our exploding ecosystem of all the other partners that we have developing, fundamentals and basics still apply. Like there's probably 5 things that I always come back to and look for our team to have really crisp answers on. What's the market opportunity and the compelling narrative, right? For us at DataStax, we have 2 core values that we can bring to our partners, and this can be an LLM provider, this can be a hyperscaler, but we help our partners be a part of new generative AI app dev and win those footprints and have their technologies embedded in them. And then we help our partners that fit this segment, do migrations from on-prem or self-managed to cloud, which is of keen interest to the hyperscalers. So first thing is just crisp narrative, compelling and better together in the market opportunity we're going after. I look for strategic agreements with joint commitments. It was referenced a couple times, strategic collaboration agreements. I think those are like, bellwether and examples of what we look for to do with partners, where you really have a big impact and joint skin in the game. Aligned with those SCAs are often integrations, that bring greater value to customers. So market opportunity and narrative, strategic agreements. campaign approaches and go to market versus just showing up events
Right.
or tactical things. So long-standing campaigns, joint enablement, and then Abhishek referenced it, how we've shifted to a marketplace first strategy, top down, where culturally we are training our field and our engagement strategy in the market to be marketplace first all the time. So you get those fundamentals in place, and then it's execution on joint metrics, and back to what I mentioned about celebrating the success stories and just clear and kind of consistent communication around things.
I like it. I think I'll pick up a skiing analogy with that. It's like my instructor says in skiing, it's same skill, different hill. But you're skiing the same. You just went on a different hill. So don't be scared.
For sure.
So I'll build upon that, right? You heard from Colleen and you heard from a lot of other folks here. Data Stacks, I've seen you guys have a very robust ecosystem that includes all the companies that were represented today and then some. How do you go about building this robust ecosystem? Like, what's the approach that you have taken? Because I think you were the first person who took this role and then have taken it to the next level. We would love to learn from you, because I think a lot of people are in that seat today in the audience.
I mentioned it earlier, and I use the term ruthless. It may be a bit strong or draconian, but building out the right ecosystem is really a deliberate and strategic approach on alignment, and joint value creation that you can bring to your target persona or target customers. And so all of the bigger things that we've done, and bigger things, this can be a smaller startup like Unstructured that we're working with, that has executive team discussion where we are talking with our CEO, our CPO, our CMO about how we craft that partnership and the impact of it. We definitely, the space is moving so fast, as you referenced. We have a mindset of moving really fast with speed on these things, because we want to be at the front of the parade, if you will, in this GenAI wave. And so, to do that, you really need that cross-functional alignment. And if we take the examples of Deloitte, Cohere, and Google Cloud, these are perfect examples within their segments that we complement each other, right? We have a massive customer base of roughly 800 customers, and we run some of the biggest applications, on the planet that are out there. Deloitte offers this really deep industry and GenAI expertise, and obviously the consulting capabilities that go with that. So a natural fit where we are a smaller company that just are not going to be doing the broad transformational projects, but maybe one piece of it. Cohere, cutting edge technology and AI, right, and models that our joint customers prioritize. We have a lot of customers that still self-manage these large data platforms and will want to do so with generative AI apps. And Cohere provides a great offering to that segment of our business. And then Google Cloud is essential to what we do and how we deliver, right? All of our growth is really in our cloud managed platform, and GCP, and what we launched with Vertex, and what we continue to do in the AI space, continue to allow us to engage and expand with our customers. So I think it's prioritization, and it's back to that compelling joint vision and skin in the game. So fundamentals still, but the volume of activity and the complexity and broadening, just like Amit said about the new stack, we just need to move quickly with speed, and encourage you all to do the same.
Yeah, I think the new stack is more complex than the older one, the first generation of it that came with the cloud. So we'll end with the last question, and then we'll take a couple of audience questions. Speaking of aligning with partners, look, we are very excited to build a strong ecosystem with you. We are incorporating data stacks into our own Gen AI product stack. Your solution around AstraDB will play a pivotal role in bringing the precision and performance of that retrieval augmented generation to Workspan's forthcoming Gen AI features. We can't be more excited. Can you expand, if you want to talk a couple of minutes on the collaboration that you had with our team and the future of DataStax's strategy?
Listen, so we're super grateful for the opportunity, and we've got a lot of customers in production now, even with multimodal GenAI, and I think what I started with of WorkSpan's a really critical part of our go-to-market strategy. GenAI has caused a spike in our business. Like the company, we've all came on board as a new exec team 4 years ago, but like the company probably hasn't seen in 5 or 6 years. So the volume of transactions that we have are going up so significantly, and our strategy is becoming more marketplace first, partner led, where our cloud partners and the integrations that you drive and the automation you deliver allows, just like Abhishek said, for us to focus on getting more strategic with our partnerships and getting broader with them. So, I think when we started, it was just co-sell with one partner, and now we've expanded that, and we're now in marketplace as well. So I think we'll continue to drive our strategy of rapid growth with our cloud partners. This partnership with WorkSpan works really well from a product and pricing and automation perspective for us. And I think the experience that we had of authentic engagement when we were going through the GenAI piece, and when we continue to, is a recipe for growth. And like I said, I think the biggest thing for us and hopefully all WorkSpan customers is that WorkSpan will be delivering you some really cool things in generative AI. And I don't want to steal any thunder or break any confidentiality. But what I love about that is it gives us all an opportunity to bring generative AI into our teams, into our organizations, into our partnerships in the near future with a tool that's really awesome and performing incredibly well for us.
I love it, Harry. The partnership has been amazing. Congratulations to you, Abhishek, as well as Chet, on what you have built. Chip, if you want to come back, we can take a couple of questions. I know we are a little bit over on time, so EB, I apologize, but I think there are a few exciting questions that I see. Chip, over to you.
Yeah, great, Harry. Thank you. This has been fantastic. A few good questions here. One from our friend Steve Steinhilber. Harry, how do you make trade-offs between revenue generation versus strategic market position value?
That's a great question, Steve. We were just in our LT meeting. We were talking about all the integrations we do, and I think this is, I mentioned earlier, when you do bigger things, it doesn't always need to be revenue generation. It needs to, some of it's table stakes, right? Like we need to do integration with all the models that are out there. We need to do a lot of integrations that engineering and product need to prioritize against other competing interests. And so what I always look for is that balance of how are we having an impact for pipeline generation, not necessarily revenue generation, by attaching. We are not going to be engaging our customers properly if we don't have strong Vertex integration at GCP. It's table stakes. It's strategic. It's execution on that, and that's a lot of engineering work, and then the marketing work and behind it that theoretically should lead to pipeline generation, from our pieces. So I look for product and engineering advocacy for the bigger things, and then presumably there needs to be some revenue value at the end of that, but it's not always immediate, and some of it may be table stakes just as part of our overall revenue strategy.
That's great. Good question. Good answer. That's fantastic, Harry. Another interesting question here from Ayush, dealing with dynamic partners, changing requirements and user-based enhancements at DataStax. How can GenAI leverage better automations? I think the question is, how can you use GenAI to improve some of those experiences?
So I think for us, it's not only the market isn't only changing, externally like we talked about, but internally for us, we've done 5 acquisitions now, and we'll do more that cause us to need to pivot internally. We just acquired a company called Langflow, which is integral in low-code automation of generative AI app dev, and so that changes how we now engage with our partner ecosystem significantly, and our customers and our developers, obviously. So I think that for us, it's many of the things that I mentioned. Coming back to how does just GenAI become a part of how we all act, and I gave the examples of simplified things with ChatGPT and automation of things like that. Leveraging GenAI elements in the existing tools and new tooling that maybe we're going to bring into our partner ecosystem or our go-to-market and field ecosystems. But it just becomes woven in the fabric of what you do. And my hope is that folks on our team are constantly bringing those opportunities forward, as well as our partners. Workspan has a vision for new generative AI apps in their product roadmap. That for us is exciting, and that will become an integral part of how we bring GenAI, to more to the forefront of everything we do.
Fantastic. Gosh, this has been great, Harry and Puneet. Great conversation. Thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on the award. And thanks for your time today, Harry.
Hey, thank you so much for the recognition. It certainly means a lot. Appreciate the partnership, appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to seeing you soon, Puneet.
Yeah, absolutely, Harry. Congrats again. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Great. So with that, I think we'll bring in Nirav and Vinod. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Vinod.
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
So yeah, Vinod, welcome, and gosh, we're so excited to have you here. And Nirav, I'll turn it over to you for introductions, and we'll and you guys take it from here.
Awesome. So excited to have you here, Vinod. Vinod, I know you had a busy schedule, so thank you for jumping in as well. Such fascinating sessions and speakers today, right? It's a hard act to follow, especially going last, but we are saving the best for the last. Cohere, as you know, is one of the hottest companies in the GenAI space today. And Vinod is the head of worldwide partnerships and business development at Cohere, where he is building an industry-leading modern GenAI partner ecosystems to deliver business value at scale for enterprises. Vinod, any quick few words from your side?
No, I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. Haven't done one of these before. I've obviously worked with Workspan in the past and intend to in the future as well. So having an opportunity to engage with you in this capacity is wonderful. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Vinod. So quick introduction. Most of you know Cohere, but if they don't know, it's one of the leading companies in this space, especially in LLMs, NLPs, GenAI, and particular focus in enterprises, unlike some of the popular peers that you hear about, empowering new products and experiences, virtual shopping assistants to AI health coaches. Some of the use cases that Colleen or Jessica and others spoke about. And more importantly, seeding entirely new business models. I think I cannot wait to hear the next Ubers of the world or Airbnbs of the world, which the new GenAI revolution would introduce. Vinod himself has had a fascinating career trajectory. He started out as a rocket scientist. Can you believe it, right? Conducting applied research for NASA. And while he realized that was very exciting and contributing real value to the humankind, if you will, he realized that his passion was actually emerging technologies than actual engineering. So he pivoted almost around 20 years, Vinod. helping tech companies scale. He was a partner at Deloitte. He worked very closely with Jessica and some of the peers at Deloitte. And then head of partner ecosystems at Confluent, which is one of the key companies in this space as well. And now at Cohere. Fun fact about Vinod, he takes a solo trip, and this is very exciting. He takes a solo trip every year just to clear his mind. He trekked to the Andes Mountains last year in Peru for a week. And Vinod, that was a very reflective and meditative experience. Any insights, learnings from there?
Honestly, this was around the time. Just so you guys know, this wasn't a prep question, so we're just going off script a little bit. But this was a time that GenAI was becoming big. This was mid 2023, and in late 2022 is when ChatGPT came out, and the whole space kind of exploded. So I knew I wanted to get into the space, but God, it was so much happening. You couldn't really figure out what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go. And so I actually used the time to just introspect, reflect, think about what I would like to do regardless of where I am. And then across the stack, which I had been studying for a while, the AI stack, where would I like to be? So it was a very clarifying, professional inside journey that I had last year, although most of the times it's just not necessarily thinking about work, but last time it was.
Awesome. And I believe you're still yet to decide where you're going to go next year. So people in the audience, I think he'll welcome recommendations from this group. Post in your thoughts there. One of the fun questions for the audience here as well. But with that, Vinod, let's jump in. Okay, so we're going to, how much time do we have? Around 20 minutes. We'll have 4 or 5 key questions, Vinod, for you. And I cannot confirm or deny that some of the questions that I'm going to ask Vinod were actually generated by Cohere AI. So that's that.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Cohere, you're literally at the hot seat, right? And you're at the epicenter of GenAI revolution today. How are you designing and building your ecosystem today, right? That is modern, agile, based on first principles as well. I know you're a big believer in that, and in tune with the times. How are you deciding where and how to partner and really drive value for your organization, for the partners, but most importantly for the customers as well?
Yeah, I mean, the one word answer would be thoughtfully. And the reason I say thoughtfully is it's just an immensely new and complex space. I think you've heard everybody else talk today. You've heard Colleen, you heard Jessica, you heard Harry. You've gotten a sense of how complex it is when you're in the middle of it. If you're reading about it for the last year and a half, then you already know that it's a very fast evolving space. So there's a few things, right? Just to maybe validate what my colleagues or my friends have said before I joined this session today with WorkSpan. Let me just pull out a couple of things. Number one, we're dealing with a net new technology. There's no precedence. There's no playbook. If you're starting a fintech company today or a security company today, you might be able to pull some playbooks from elsewhere. Here, we're all going to figure it out together. So if you haven't figured it out, neither have I, neither has anybody else. I wish I could tell you that we have everything done, but we don't. We're figuring it out. Secondly, every company today is an AI company. Either they're calling themselves an AI company or they're adopting AI in some significant capacity or they have an AI story. So every company, if they're all AI or AI-ish companies, then they're potential partners for you, which makes tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of potential partners. So who do you partner with? Again, got to be thoughtful about that. And then lastly, you might say, I have said too, is, solve for the customer. Build an ecosystem that solves for the customer. And if you solve for the customer, then you've got the right ecosystem. Unfortunately, at this point in time, at least, the customers also don't know exactly what they want, where they want to buy it from, whom they trust, et cetera. So we are going back to first principles, as you mentioned, Nirav, and we are starting with what we know to be true, the known knowns, if you will, and then we will solve for the unknowns along the way. So the way to think about it is, Harry earlier was talking about, and as was Colleen, about the cloud hyperscalers. We know they are important players. First principles, again, we know they're important players because they are viewed as the place to go to try and buy new technologies. It's been playing out for well over a decade, whether it's the cloud transformation or whatever it might be. That's where people have always gone to try new technologies. So we partner very closely with them. We are cloud agnostic. We work with all the clouds. And so for us, being close to all the hyperscalers is important. So we've started there. Then you have the large consulting firms. I'm a former consultant, as Nirav mentioned as well. And the reality is, whether it was a .com or the cloud or any digital transformation along the last couple of decades, the trusted advisors for customers around how do you take this technology and turn it into business value, right? Which is very true for GenAI. There's a lot of hype, but where is the business value being achieved? How do you measure that business value? Is the ROI truly worth it? Should we be applying GenAI here versus here? And if so, then why? Those kinds of decisions are primarily being driven alongside the large consulting firms, or the consulting firms, even the small ones. And so that's our second big bucket of partners, where we engage with a few and go deeply with them. And then finally, and Harry talked about this from the data stack side as well, for data companies, as an example, there's a lot of demand for RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. I'm sure most of you are familiar with, which is where we shine, by the way. There's a lot of demand for RAG applications on and with the database companies. So we work significantly with those companies, as well as some others in the GenAI stack, to go to market with product companies, essentially. So you've got the hyperscalers, you've got the consulting firms, you've got the product companies. Now, that is what we know. What we are figuring out is, what is the go-to-market with each of them? Is it the same as it might have been elsewhere, which is not the case? How are we learning with each other and then figuring out what the go-to-market motions are? And then what are the other partners that need to get added into our ecosystem to make us all successful? But with all that being said, and everything being as noisy as it is, to answer your question, Nirav, we're definitely starting with the ones that we know will definitely be anchor players in the system.
That's very interesting. I'm sure some of these you actually compete with, right? Whether it's some of the hyperscalers, the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, if you will, and some of the other nimble data and AI companies as well, right? There's so much of overlapping space today, right? How do you address those dichotomies, if you will, right? You want to get to market and go to market with them to solve a customer problem, but then they're also building their own AI solutions and offerings, which kind of compete with you as well. How do you kind of address that while being totally customer centric?
Yeah, so let me give a little bit of an introduction to Cohere first. For those of you who are not familiar, there's a couple of unique things about us, and that'll lend itself to the question that Nirav just asked. Cohere makes models, foundational models. We have generative models, we've got embeddings models, we've got a re-rank model. We won't go into the details of all that, but the most important thing for you to know about us is that we're enterprise only. So we're focused on enterprise applications. We're not trying to build consumer apps with all kinds of bells and whistles. There are others that do that, and kudos to them for helping us build the industry together. But our focus is exclusively on enterprise use cases. I mentioned RAG earlier. That's our key. That's a key requirement for enterprises, and that's our key offering as well. So with that said, when we talk about competitors, the use cases in an enterprise setting determine who wins. It's not about who has the best metric. We are all constantly, all the LLM companies out there are putting out, we've got MMLU metrics, we've got latency numbers, and we've got how many parameters we have in our model. We've got all these things that we put out there, but in an enterprise setting, the decision is made on who wins by who wins in that use case. Who's the best at that use case? And whether or not the model that we have or our competitors have can do the job best for a use case. For example, a model that does well for a customer experience use case may not be the best for the supply chain use case in the same company even, or the best one is too expensive, or what worked in a POC or a pilot while searching through a small number of documents, it's overly complex and overly expensive when it comes to doing a scaled application across large volumes of data. So if our partners, including some of the ones that you said, they're in co-opetition with us, if the hyperscalers and some of the product companies, if they're as customer-centric as we are, and we believe they are, then they're going to do what's right for the customer for that use case. None of them are saying our model is the best model for everything. At least I certainly hope not. We're not saying that. And so by engaging with these folks, by showing them, here's our model, here's what it does, let's play with it together, let's evaluate it together, let's go ahead and deploy it in a customer environment for specific use cases to show that we shine, that's where we win. And if they're doing the right thing for the customers, they'll represent our model relative to their model or their closest investment model, whatever that might be. And that's what we're counting on, and that's where we're seeing success with. So competition is real. I came from Confluent, open source managed product from an open source technology, which had competition across the hyperscalers and other companies as well. This model itself is not new. The technology is new, but the business model itself is something that we're used to.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Solving for customer value, and working around the customer's ecosystem versus your own ecosystem, and being hardwired to that, if you will, right? So love that. Changing topics, right? You talked about some of the three or four large ecosystem plays or partner plays that you have, right? With cloud, GSIs, product and data companies. Could you double click on how you're driving success and growth, both for partners, but for yourself as well, and success, of course?
Yeah. So a couple of different areas, right? Everybody is learning. That is the first thing that we all have to acknowledge in this ecosystem. We're all figuring it out. And so, maybe I'll do it in the context, Nirav, of an example or two, rather than, speaking in broad strokes. So, let's take a couple of partners with whom we've gone really deep. We invest in them early and often. We don't set targets that say, okay, listen, these are the dollars that we have to get. These are the dollars that you have to get. And if we don't achieve that, the alliance as a partnership is a failure. Our engagement starts at a very high level, and we start with talking about executive engagement. We get marketing teams aligned. We get product roadmaps that are being shared, models that are being given to our partners so that they can play with it as a preview almost before a commercial release. They are actually deploying our models into their applications, which is a huge thing for us and for them because they're dogfooding it in some ways. And secondly, they're validating whether these things work as well as they should, and they're doing their own evaluation against other competitors to make sure that this works. So this is extremely key, because what that then allows us to do is, alongside us, our partners sometimes build joint applications, which they take to customers. We solve together at clients. So there's a sell with co-sell, sell to kind of angle that's all kind of playing out, which builds trust on both sides. And that then gives us the ability to enable teams on both sides as well, which is also important, because we are trying to make sure that our partners are as educated on our technology and LLMs more broadly, and GenAI even more broadly, because that benefits us. So we take the time to actually go and enable them, their technologists, their sales leaders, and they do the same and bring feedback from the field back to us. But this is a lot of how we drive really, really close relationships with them. Our solutions architects work alongside with them in the field. So, for us, a lot of the success, when you're double clicking into it, a lot of the success comes into the detailed steps that we are really trying to win together with in the market. So at a broad strokes level, it's easy to say we have a partnership, but when you double click into it, this is why we go deeper with just a few partners, because we want to go to this level of depth to be able to be successful, where they see value from us, we see value from them, and together we're able to deliver something to the customers.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, right? So it's not just co-innovating at the initial conceptual phase, or innovating through the life cycle, but co-GTM, co-marketing, co-selling, but also being at the customer side, working on the co-success together as well, right? So orchestrating value across the whole life cycle, if you will.
Yep, exactly.
So that's amazing. A question there. Could you give an example of a good use case that you have delivered for an end customer? And you talked about a specialization in enterprise, right? Maybe pick an example with either a GSI or a specialized GSI or one of the partners, and how you've been able to deliver value, not just in form of a pilot, because I'm sure, as you were mentioned, there are quite a few pilots out there, but something which was needle moving as well. Anything that stands out for you where you were able to drive value, orchestrating these ecosystem of players?
Yeah, there's a few. I'll pick one that is one of my personal favorites and we're particularly proud of. Think of of course, I'll use masking terms for company names and partner names and all that, but think of a large fashion retailer, and it's a company that makes everything from clothing to fashion gear, if you will. And so what they wanted to do was they wanted to build almost like an advisor co-pilot. So when a customer calls in, they ask for some recommendations. They currently have agents, humans, who are out there giving recommendations on, if you like this and if you're looking for this, then here are other things that we would recommend. And, there'd be some degree of transformation that's going on, or transaction that's going on. What we did is we grounded our models in their product catalog, massive product catalog, massive product portfolio. So therefore, massive product catalog, everything from fabric type to color to form to et cetera, for everything that they have. And we really grounded and trained our models on those, number one. And then we also sat down alongside our partner, by the way, a large consulting firm. We also sat down with them to say, okay, how do the best advisors act? How do they get information from a customer? How do they translate that information, interpret that information, match it back to catalog? And we started channeling those behaviors and trained the model on that as well. Bottom line, when it went through a POC, extremely successful. The GenAI model was able to interpret the questions coming through the right way. It was able to point to the right things in the catalog and pull the right things from the catalog based on what the customer was asking, understanding the sentiment behind it, understanding the intent behind the question, and therefore being able to pull the right right products. So there was just this very complex retrieval that was going on that was generating the answers for the customers. And that then got productionized. We put it into scaled use. It was successful enough. In fact, I think the conversion rates for customers went up by like 20%, 18 to 20%, that they actually scaled that to 5 more use cases. And then we have a much more scaled use case, I'd say, portfolio across that company now. So that's like a great use case. We'd love for all customers to be on that journey and test, deploy, scale, and go across business units. But that's where, if we had not had the partner, or for that matter, that consulting firm did not have us, we would not have been able to get down into the weeds with the customer and learn how to solve with them and alongside them. So that's the one that comes to mind.
That's an amazing example. And, I know you're working on many more of these. So thank you for that. Could you share some insights into your key challenges and learnings today, right? As you mentioned, this is a very complex ecosystem, and, you have to work with your partners, sometimes many partners together across the life cycle and orchestrate the entire ecosystem, right? What are some of the challenges and learnings that you have to build and scale this out, right? You're still in the growth curve, if you will, but this is a fast-growing pace. Just from your LinkedIn, you've grown like 6x in terms of employees. You won't talk about your actual growth rate in revenues. But as you scale and grow, how are you navigating some of the challenges and learnings that you have?
I'll also keep an eye on the clock, so I'll keep this one fairly short because it all burns down to focus. Those are, I would say, our challenges. That's our learning. That's everything. It's focus. So it's a huge market. It's a huge TAM. It's a very fast-moving market, so it's very easy to get distracted. I would love to say that we've never gotten distracted, but we have, just as everybody else has. But we do a very good job of coming back into focus, and that's what my focus is. So, in the vein of staying focused, number one, we got to pick our spots, pick industries, geographies, use cases, basically areas where we know we want to win. We go intentionally after those and figure out how to build for that, how to execute for that, and how to have success in those areas that we choose to play in. That's the most important thing. Can't be everything to everybody, especially for a company of our stage. We cannot be. And I think for most companies out there, that's one of our biggest challenges. Secondly, if you know where you're going to play, then that's where you pick the partners that you want to win with. And Harry, in his chat earlier, talked about ruthless prioritization, and he said it potentially sounded too draconian. I would say that's the term that we use internally all the time. We ruthlessly prioritize the partners with whom we want to work. It's less about being reactionary and saying, oh, 20 partners called us, let's go work with them. It's more about saying, this is our strategy. Therefore, these are the partners that matter the most. Let's go call them. If they don't know about us, let's go introduce ourselves. But we need to work with those partners. So that's how we really focus in. Deeper with fewer, ruthless prioritization, go in, solve together with those partners. And then the last thing I'll say is, and this may feel a little off, but everybody's got a lot of marketing dollars going into talking about how great they are in GenAI. But the reality is not everybody's been playing with GenAI. And so we are very careful about working with partners who've got a few scars. who've lost a few deals, who've seen a few deals not go from POC to production, and have learned their lessons along the way. So for those partners that we want to work with, we place a high priority on those who are already in the space and therefore can join us in the space, as opposed to figuring it all out from scratch, which started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So I'd say those are the main things, everything coming down to focus, 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 and not get distracted.
Yeah, I love that. Love the quote, deeper with fewer. In fact, you'd be delighted to know, since I posted on LinkedIn, there have been like 15 requests asking me to introduce to you. So maybe we'll find a way to prioritize those as well. Last question in the interest of time, and then, we'll take a couple of audience questions. With the rapid evolution of GenAI, right, and it's kind of spawning new business models as well. How do you future-proof partnerships in this space, right? And in other words, how do you ensure partnerships and equally important partnership professionals and leaders remain relevant and adaptable to the changing customer needs and markets?
That's a great question. I know it's our last question, so I'll try to stay concise. But that's a wonderful question, because it is a very fast moving space. I've been here for only 6 months. It feels like a long time, but I've been here for only 6 months, and so much has changed. Right? It used to be all about the technology. Now it's all about the use cases. It used to be buying based on metrics, not about the value within the use case. But it's all changing. So the answer is, the only solution from my perspective is to be as close to the customer as possible, finding partners who welcome that, working with them, but stay close to the partners. So, for example, we meet potential partners. So we meet potential customers with our partners on roadshows, speaking engagements, dinners, events, their hosted events or jointly hosted events. Wherever we can, we meet with customers to learn how are they thinking in the same industry. How are different customers thinking about their buying styles and their adoption styles? Once we engage with them on a project, we get deep to understand needs. We start fine-tuning, we start customizing, we track their performance. As they learn and as their own thinking evolves, we start evolving our own thinking internally within the company as well. So we are learning alongside our customers. And then what happens is the reasons why they might have picked us for that use case may not be the same reasons why it's the same evaluation criteria for the next use case. So we work with them very closely to figure out how are they thinking differently and how can we position ourselves differently as well. To put it bluntly, there's no time to wait for quarterly customer advisory boards and yes, quarterly partner advisory boards. Those days are gone. The last point I'll make is the way to future-proof the business is also we're building an ecosystem of partners. We're not trying to build just partnerships or channels. We're trying to create a degree of stickiness within the ecosystem. It's not about each partnership on its own, but how everybody adds value to everybody else. And when you talk about future-proofing, knowing the customer and engaging your partners and keeping everybody feeling like they're getting value from the relationship is the most important thing. So, it'll get more sophisticated over time. Early days, again, WorkSpan has great tools. I know this. We will get to it. We're not quite there yet, but that's where getting the sophistication of the ecosystem as opposed to thinking about partners will be critical.
Yeah, fascinating conversation, Vinod. A lot of great questions and a lot of great insights from you as well. I'll turn it over to Chip and a few questions as well.
Yeah, Vinod, this has been fantastic. A lot of questions, more questions than we'll ever get to, but a few really interesting ones. I think this one might be a good one to hear your thoughts on from Tarun. What are leading indicators for the evolving ecosystem and perhaps OKRs for Cohere?
Yeah, great question, Tarun. I touched on this briefly. I'll double click on it here for a quick second. So normally, if I look at our partner dashboards that we have with any partner, I'm sure you have it too, where you're like, oh, this much revenue and these many new logos and this much services revenue for the consulting partner, this much consumption for the cloud partner, our revenues. That's what a normal dashboard looks like, a partner dashboard. For us, it's not that. It's about how many at-bats did we get? How many use cases did we develop together? How many customers did we touch and have conversations with? So our focus is almost entirely on traction for 2024. It'll evolve for 25 and beyond. But for 24, it's almost entirely on gaining traction and building use cases or applications for use cases together, as opposed to how much money did we bring each other. that is, and Harry touched on it as well. I think that's a fallacy. And if we are going down that path, then the partnership is going to struggle on both sides. So I would say it's more about traction, less about dollars and cents.
It's fantastic. Another really interesting question. You talked a lot, Vinod, about continuous learning, and Emily's question is, how are you setting up your teams? Well, doing continuous learning, but also going deep with a few partners.
Yeah, so a couple of ways, and I'll talk about. I assume you're asking about our team's partnerships team. Yeah. So for us, not for our partners. So. Our team has regular touch points, or actually people coming in from our product team, from our solutions architecture team, as well as our engineering teams, to come and keep educating us. And the reason we do that is because they bring in a competitive view. They will show us how we compare on certain metrics, but then they'll show us, but that's metrics, and here's where we're headed as a company. Here are the products we're building, and here's how our tool use is evolving. Here's our fine-tuning capabilities are evolving. Here's where we are open sourcing a few of our capabilities so that customers can adopt faster. Here's what we're building for developers, and here's what we're building for executives for them to see the value. And showing that in the context of what is happening in the GenAI world around us, that is extremely valuable. So that's what we do. We every 2 weeks, our team, myself included, we are all learning from the people who are deeper in this than we are. And so that's the only way to stay informed. And then we don't hesitate to go into our competitors' events and learn from them as well, because that's also an education for us. And we actually have goals around that.
Vinod and I have a running joke that, he works more harder than anybody of us, despite the AI models and everything at AI. So building, scaling ecosystems at the same time learning as well.
Indeed.
Gosh, Vinod, Neerav, fantastic session, really interesting, and generated a lot of questions. We'll try and answer them offline. And thank you guys for sharing your thoughts, Vinod. It's been terrific.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Exciting discussion.
Thanks, Neerav. See you.
Fantastic, Neerav. Thank you. And we're gonna wrap here. And Amit, I'll bring you back in for a quick session to wrap. Thanks, Neerav.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a terrific lineup of people and learning from their insights. It's fascinating to hear Cohere and Colleen and Harry and Jessica. Right. Let's tee up what we see.
Yeah. So we've in the background we've been collecting. Some of the interesting thoughts throughout the day, and so, gosh, Jessica's session was great. I think I loved how she encouraged everybody to focus on the business problem rather than looking at the next new piece of technology, which I think is really insightful.
Yeah, I think the way she differentiated like the pace of innovation and what eventually wins customer trust, and the fact that they've been around for 100+ years, earning that trust, drop at a time. I think the fact that folks across the entire stack can rely on GSIs to put together solutions, take the solutions to marketplaces and co-sell together, right? I think it's a tremendous GTM asset. So one of the moves that we've been tracking in the industry is move from resell to co-sell, right? For example, it's a tremendous opportunity for resellers to become service partners and managed service partners in particular. I think that's a common trend that I found with Colleen as well. She called out saying there'll be specialists in the space around GSIs. She, of course, talked about Deloitte, but also Quantify, and also specialist MSPs that are coming out to work, especially in GenAI use cases. So if your partner program doesn't have that component around GenAI, now's the time to fix it.
And Google is really doubling down in that with industry value networks, right? Bringing together these combination of an SI and the cloud, Google, of course, cloud partner, and then a lot of times 2 or 3 ISVs. There might be a data partner. So there's bringing these constellations of partners together around specific industry use cases.
Yeah. Even Vinod's example around the the transformative power when you put together Cohere plus this consulting partner to kind of change this fashion retailer as an example, right? That they had create a custom LLM model around. So that's kind of shows the power of GSIs and boutique SIs. You can see it in bullet point number 3 under Vinod there, right? It's an interesting insight that, and obviously you can work in this trusted way with few and selected partners. So I think all of them talked about that. This is GenAI is not going to be a quantity game. It will be deeper, fewer and deeper partnerships, if you will, especially at the SI, GSI layer of this.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting. Harry's focus, a lot of Harry's focus was on, on the team, right? And, challenging and I love this, the quote, challenge and facilitate curiosity, and ideation and experimentation, because I think that is so, it's, that's where things are going to happen. Everything is changing so fast, and Vinod talked about it as well. The pace of change is so fast that you have to, motivate your team just to stay curious and keep learning.
Absolutely. What Chet, Harry, and Abhishek kind of embody is with DataStax is an amazing company on AI, right? Just the culture, the mindset, the openness to partner, the ability to serve customers through tech in a very differentiated way with automation. They're making the right moves. So I think this is where we go from tech to intent, right? Intent-driven things, and we are able to do things that we were not able to do before because of DataStax, right? That's powerful.
Amazing. Well, so I think we'll wrap with a couple of quick things. One is, we do have Workspan Hyperscaler Edition. We touched on it a little bit during the event today, and heard from some customers. If anyone's interested, QR code right there, and we'd love to share more and see how Workspan could help you with your cloud partnership journey, or broader partners as well. So I think that's love to have further the conversation with anybody that's watching. And then next we'll just mention also August 14th to the 16th in Chicago. I think there was some conversation in the chat, but we're all looking forward to coming together. I think going to be about 800 partner leaders in Chicago with partnership leaders, and our next big event coming up. So
absolutely, I'm looking forward to Chicago as well.
Okay, gosh, I think with that, Amit.
Yeah, let's call it. Yeah, thank you to the entire community for participating. We'll keep these ecosystem business summits on, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining, and thanks for contributing some really great questions for our panelists. Okay.
Thank you.
With that, thanks everybody.